of the ego being something we need to slay and get rid of and kill and abolish. And what I've started to really see in my own experience is that the ego is just all the unloved parts of myself that have then formed into a subpersonality. And that for myself, trying to get rid of it or trying to kick it out or trying to, has only ever increased the problem. And my God, I've tried so hard.
Decades,
yeah. And now I've come to realize in my older years that these parts of me, when I offer them gratitude, when these parts that are just really doing their best with their very limited perspective on what's going to actually bring me happiness, when these parts of my psyche are playing out, rather than trying to exterminate them, if I turn around to these parts of my psyche and say, thank you for trying so hard to keep me safe, to get the things that these parts of me are looking for, which is always safety, security, love, acceptance, approval. Thank you for doing such a great job. Unfortunately, it hasn't been working that well, so let's try another methodology. And then I can bring more self online, which can gear me into a different direction. But ending that internal war and actually being grateful to my ego for trying really hard, not letting it run the show, but certainly including it as it's just part of the human experience, and being grateful for all that I learned through that journey. That's been huge for me. And I don't know if you've heard of something called internal family systems, IFS.
I've distantly heard about that. It's has some indirect relation also with family constellation, the different roles, but has more an internal, like different personality aspects in ourselves, which can be kind of split off almost in a schizophrenic way if they are denied in the shadow aspects.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, really, ultimately, it's recognizing that I think before we used to think of multiplicity, meaning that we have lots of different parts. We used to think about that as being only in the realm of, schizophrenia, for example. But really, it's the recognition that all of us are a multiplicity, and we all have a myriad of parts inside, often that are in conflict with each other. And it's really the focus of a practice where there's integration, where those parts are communicating with themselves. And I think before, even though consciously I didn't think I was doing this, subconsciously I was really enamored with the higher self, which meant that anything other than that was really sort of getting fought with or pushed out in my internal experience. Whereas internal family systems has been this turning around and this inclusion of all parts of myself that's created more of a sense of wholeness, not because I've included those parts and therefore that's who I am, not through identification, but through this inclusion of all of what it is to be human, and then navigating with those parts with gratitude and appreciation and love, rather than with a murderous intent.
Exactly. Rather than this denial and suppression, which then can ultimately lead, what you mentioned before, the spiritual bypassing. Exactly. That's where we're coming from. We spoke about the pessimism and the negative thinking, which can be excessive, but the positive thinking can also be excessive. Starting from the kind of endless, like smiling at everything. Hi, how are you? Awesome. Even though I just had like really a bad day and I didn't sleep well, and this kind of just fake smile, which is also very widespread. And we see it here a lot in this California, this kind of California feel good in Bali, here in the tropical island, having the best day of my life, but it's kind of like, actually, no, not really. So this
hashtag living your best life.
Exactly. Just
the Instagram showing the face, but behind the scenes is a whole different,
Exactly. So that is one common expression of it. But even then, when we take that onto the spiritual path, it can be also either like a fake positivity of just mocking this positive thinking and then denying the negative aspects, the shadow in my personality and those inner family roles, whatever, the uncle, the father, the conditioning which we received from society in this and that way, our personality traits, characteristics, etc. where we can on the spiritual path have a tendency to deny and suppress them, and then run away and only focus on this imaginary supreme self. But frequently that can be a mind game also, where it's then just kind of this part of the mind fighting with that part of the mind, and putting a lot of energy in denying, suppressing, and hiding also these character traits.
Absolutely.
And it can be an escapism.
Yeah, and a lot of shame and guilt, and it becomes quite religious in nature rather than essentially spiritual, which at least in my opinion, I think the essence of spirit is love. So if we're not loving all aspects of ourselves, then of course there's going to be this internal split and chaos, and it creates a lot of pain, you know. I remember reading this quote. It said I can't remember who it was. It was a well-known yogi saying, yoga is not the path of self-improvement, it's a path of self-acceptance.
Yes, famous one, yes.
Yeah, and I really agree with that. And I think I intellectually got that for a long time, and it took a long time for my heart and body to really catch up, because it's very enchanting, this idea that I'll become my perfect self and then I won't suffer anymore.